Okay, great. So, hey everyone, I'm Ben Holmes. I'm the CEO, and I am one of the founders of Nanochon. We're developing a revolutionary implant for restoring cartilage in joints, and we think that there is a huge benefit in the pediatric market, which I will get into. But talking generally, we're looking to address something which is called a focal cartilage lesion. These are essentially these potholes that develop in the cartilage surface of really any joint in the body, although they're most prevalent in the knee. Um, and they're really the driving force behind degenerative joint disease and arthritis. So these cartilage lesions, if they're not corrected sooner and when they're diagnosed, they continue to present pain. They basically cause a patient to lose function of their knee. And if not addressed over a period of decades, it leads to the need for a knee replacement. So you can imagine in a pediatric or an adolescent patient that sustains an acute injury to the surface cartilage in their knee, it really needs to be addressed really at the point of diagnosis. And normally when I give this talk focused on adult medicine, I sort of talk about how there's a number of surgical techniques, there's grafting techniques, and there's other types of therapeutics, but really all of that's irrelevant here because there are none of these options available for pediatric patients. I mean, really, if a adolescent or a child has a traumatic knee injury, these lesions can only really be corrected either with surgical techniques, which we know don't work and only provide a couple years of relief, or out of desperation, surgeons will turn to off-label use of bone fusion and spinal fusion products, which already that probably sounds, correctly to you like that doesn't really work very well. And so, we really see a big opportunity to bring Nanochon's innovative solution for actually restoring cartilage to the pediatric patients. But what our implant actually is it's essentially a minimally invasive implantable medical device, which is designed for both function and regeneration. So the first piece of the technology is the material. We're working with a synthetic polymer composite, which is fully biodegradable and actually has a surface texture and porosity, which mimic the collagen bundles in cartilage. And so what we've shown is that acts really well as a substrate for stem cell growth. And then we actually manufacture our device through 3D printing. So we take that material and then we 3D print that into a highly porous patch like you see in the graphic. And basically our material combined with this 3D printed structure act as a very, very effective recruiter of the body's own stem cells. And then it supports those stem cells to regrow true cartilage over time. And so the benefit that we have here is it's an implant which has cartilage-like properties, so it actually provides mechanical support as soon as it's implanted, meaning patients can get back to their life much, much sooner. But then the real long-term benefit is we're showing the actual regrowth of high-quality cartilage. And we've been working on this technology since 2015. It's been in a number of grant-funded studies, multiple animal models, most recent of which was a goat. And that's what you're seeing the results of here. If you're not a histological expert, I'll walk you through it. Basically, you see normal cartilage all the way on the left. We compared this to one of those surgical techniques I mentioned, something called microfracture, which, as expected, did not really do much. Basically, regrew a scar tissue that filled in the lesion. And then the Nanochon device regrew healthy tissue. It's worth noting that we actually had these results scored by an independent pathologist who confirmed that it's actually true hyaline cartilage rather than something else. We also saw this cartilage growing with incredible speed, at least in adult patients. Typical recovery takes 8 to 12 months. We saw this tissue growing in 4 months. So we believe that the potential for faster recovery really is there. To sort of touch on the market, we're looking at around a $2 billion target market annually. Roughly 20% of that would be the pediatric patient, but that's looking just at these lesions in the knee. We have also started to look at if we scaled this up into treating other joints, it's close to a $4 billion opportunity. And then we think there's a lot of potential here to really regenerate soft tissue anywhere in the body, not just in joints. And this represents about a $10 billion market opportunity annually in the US. I do want to note that if you start to look at the global market just for the knee application, it about doubles if you include Europe, and then it triples if you include the rest of the world. We've also done quite a lot of works talking to our potential customers in the surgical community. Nanochon is a PMA device, which means we'll have to do several rounds of human clinical trials before getting approval. However, we believe we've really demonstrated that there's a market here by talking to a lot of sports medicine surgeons. It's also worth noting that we did partner with Children's National on our first research grant back in 2016 and 2017. And really all of these surgeons in the sports medicine space sort of say the same thing. They want something that, I mean, definitely is designed for this, something that can be, mechanically stable, robust, that they can do in an arthroscopic procedure. They also definitely confirm that they want something that's regenerative, but also they all talk a lot about wanting a product which really can be more of an off-the-shelf device. I mean, especially in human medicine where things like tissues or cells are used, there's long lead times, and it can be hard to work that into the workflow. There's also significant costs, but we have a product which is essentially prepackaged and can be bought at some volume and then used as needed rather than having to be sourced on a case-by-case basis. When you think about a pediatric patient, this can be especially necessary because treating the injury close to the time that it happened really affects the outcomes. And then also you have a young and active person who it's extremely disruptive to their life. So having something that surgeons can pull and use and not have to think about the cost, not have to think about sourcing it, just all of those issues really are compounded when you talk about the pediatric patient. To talk about myself and the team, my co-founder and I are coming out of George Washington University. We started the company in 2016. We've taken it through several rounds of grant funding, close to $500,000 in non-dilutive funding. We also just closed a seed round, which I'll talk about. And I've been leading the company since 2016, responsible for all that funding. I've also taken the company through a number of high-profile accelerators and incubators, and we are currently in Johnson & Johnson J Labs. My co-founder, Dr. Castro, is the CTO. He's a very highly decorated researcher in the regenerative medicine space and has actually worked on human clinical trials for a 3D printed implant. We also have a really strong team of experienced executives from the medical device and life science space, major KOLs for potential go-to-market partners and acquirers. We also have a number of very important development relationships, both on the R&D as well as the manufacturing side and on the business development and IP side. So I mentioned we closed a seed round. We closed close to $2.4 million in an oversubscribed round in January of this year. This funding is going to one more really well-designed large animal study with a partner at Colorado State. Basically, we're going to really show the repeatability of that GOAT trial and also show durability, taking the studies out to almost a year. And then we are also working on an advanced biomechanics study with a group at UVA to demonstrate the short-term benefits of the device as a load-bearing implant. And then we're also continuing to work with companies like Vico, Cyanion, and Evonik on the engineering and development side. We essentially now have a validated, clinically viable product, which is ready to go to the clinic once we finish up this final animal study. And then that brings me to sort of talking about what's next. So we are planning on opening a $7 million Series A in the next couple months. The primary use of that funding will be to do a first-in-human trial, but we also want to continue to work with our partners on the development side and also continue to grow the IP estate, as well as fleshing out a strategy for a pediatric trial alongside our adult clinical trials. And so just to summarize, we're a company that's identified a very high unmet need in the orthopedic space. We're really poised for rapid growth, moving very quickly through our development and getting ready to go into the clinic. We also are poised to really start to generate that clinical study really by this time next year. And I think also, really have an opportunity to launch a pediatric trial alongside our adult trials. And then we're looking at a potential exit by the end of 2025 or 2026. That's based on comps in the space, specifically cartilage restoration devices between $438 million and $500 million for a pre-market product. I want to emphasize that both of these comps are coming from companies which went through trials and either got FDA approval or were close to it. But the comps are really showing that the industry is hungry for solutions like what Nanochon is doing and is willing to acquire them before the products even go to market. So again, I'm Ben Holmes, we're Nanochon, and I want to thank everyone very much.